Hi guys, welcome to another movie crew review. Today we'll be reviewing The Lord of the Rings, The War of the Rohirrim. The movie stars Brian Cox, Gaia, Miranda Otto.
So this prequel set 183 years before the events of the original trilogy, follows a few different characters. We've got Héra, she's the protagonist of this story as she tries to fight to save her kingdom from people such as Wulf, who is trying to take over pretty much the whole land. And we find that Helm, her father, who is the king, has been taken down, and he comes back and he dies again, and this and that. So it's an interesting story, and it's following some parts of the appendices of the original Lord of the Rings books. So we'll start this review off, and Cameron, you'll take us away as the resident Lord of the Rings expert.
Look, I love the original trilogy as in movies, and I think this movie plays well to that. I mean, it starts, you hear the classic theme, you see the classic title, and it just gave me goosebumps and memories of the old trilogy. And really, it didn't take a wrong step in the sense of feeling very much in this world. I think the choice of the animation style being more Japanese anime style really fits the world well. I think it just did a great job of just feeling in this world, but it sort of felt a bit different in terms of the way you're looking at it. I think that really helped it a lot because it does go back to places obviously we've already been, like Helm's Deep and Isengard. I think they gave it a new shade of grey. It made it look different and refreshing. But yeah, in terms of the story, I think it does play a little bit as the same as the trilogy. I didn't think they did too much different, but I didn't necessarily need that. And in terms of the characters, I think it does enough to warrant being a side story prequel sort of thing to the original trilogy, and I think it does well. But in saying that, I think none of them are really memorable in the sense of I'll be saying I love this character so much. I think they didn't really stand out to me. But other than that, I think it was great. Still, I'd never thought I'd see a Watcher in the Water eat a Mamakill. I think that was just great. It was just so left field from my brain. It just to see it was just great for me. John?
Yeah, I mixed bag on this film. I don't think I found it as interesting as I did either the original trilogy or when I watched the Hobbit trilogy. So that I think leads more to the characters. Probably my favorite from this film was Helm, played by Brian Cox, or voiced by Brian Cox. I think that the character was interesting in terms of he's like this really strong guy, goes through grief, has a good arc, becomes like a superhero in a sense where he's just the strongest guy fighting all of the creatures of the realm. So I enjoyed that character. I think Héra was okay, but a bit not so much boring, but underdeveloped in a sense. I felt that like we go on this journey with her, but she's, I don't know, following the motions in some way. It just that character didn't really call to me. But even the Wulf character, he's like hell bent on like even at the end of the film trying to marry her still, and it's like he doesn't get the hint. So I think the animation style was good to do it as an anime or something that's animated, because it would have just cost an absolute fortune to try and recreate all the sets that they went to or escapes they went to, and go back to New Zealand and recreate all the things that they had from the original trilogy in this state 200 years earlier, so change it a bit. So I think it was a good idea to do it as an anime. Probably it wasn't as detailed as I would have liked. seeing some animes recently can get a lot of good detail out of them, and this felt a bit on the lower end of that, and you can kind of see it when they're doing not so much the big scapes like where they have the fires and the things like that, but you can definitely see it when you have things like the horses running, or like, you know, they've got a nice shot of Helm coming up in his like action pose, and it's really detailed, and then all of a sudden we go to like motion and like we're starting to lose detail and things like that. So that was a bit disappointing from my perspective, but I understand the style that they were trying to go for, so I can completely get that. But yeah, this was an all right adaptation, I guess, of this story, but for me it wasn't, you know, a be all end all kind of adaptation. It's not something I'm probably going to come back to in the future. So yeah. Moon?
This movie is fine. The anime does like with the world looks very good, but I think it sort of lost the charm of the Lord of the Rings movie. The magic, I just didn't feel it, and the main problem also is the story. So we are basically focused on Hera, and I don't think, yeah, like Cameron pointed out, it was like the movie, like you don't need it, like I don't actually need it to know like a side story what happened. So it was very hard for me to focus. Like it took me a while to actually like get going with the movie in the beginning. And yeah, just I think if we wanted to do something, maybe focus on other character instead of Hera, maybe. But yeah, at the end, I was like, I think the war scenes were pretty good, and a couple of fight scenes here and there were pretty well done. This movie is, yeah, just fine. Yeah, I wouldn't watch it again though.
Yeah, I think it was mainly the story that probably irked me more than anything else. I don't know if the story was as interesting as the other ones for you.
No, it wasn't, but it's like the sense of it, because it does the same. Like even the Helm's Deep fight in the end, it was very much the end of Two Towers, and everything sort of they harp back to the original. So for me, it was just the same, but something slightly different. So the story, yeah, like I said, the story is very plain Jane, you could argue. For me, somehow it warrants being a prelude, and I like that. Just slightly tying in to the beginning.
Yeah.
Like you saw Saruman at the end of the movie, and they mentioned Gandalf, for me that was great, and just to see a different side of the wild men, because you don't really get to see that in the trilogy. Like you get it in games and maybe in lore and stuff like that, but to see it on a big screen, a bit more in depth, because they only focus on the men and the wild men. So it was, maybe that's probably why it felt a bit more boring, or as a sense of a bit more meh than the original trilogy, because it's very linear. You're in Helm's Deep for a long time,
Yeah.
and with the Lord of the Rings, they have 3 different stories to cut from and cut to, so what you don't never feel in the same spot.
Yeah.
So what this film, it was always going to struggle with if they were going to Helm's Deep, is you're in there for a long time, and so so they get the actual feeling coming across the screen. So I mean, for me, I love Lord of the Rings, so I did get enough out of it to enjoy it a bit more than you guys, I feel.
Yeah.
But yeah, I get exactly what you're saying, like, because you guys aren't so much a fan, or like you like them, but you're not in depth in love.
Yeah.
Yeah. So this film can be very mediocre, and I totally get
Yeah,
that.
it's just, yeah, I would have loved it more, like I said before, if they had focused on Helm, like actually his character. I don't know why I was drawn to that character, other than just, I don't know, he seems strong, seems, you know, powerful. And like every time he came on screen, that was a bit that I was like into, if that made sense. Like in this film, every time he came and he did something, like when he defended the gates, or, you know,
It was
when
impactful.
it was just,
it had very much meaning behind
to
it.
me, he felt like the main character, and for some reason we were following the side character. That's how this story felt to me. I know it's strange to say, but that's honestly how it came across to me. But
All right, going to give our scores?
yep.
Moon, how many Helms out of 10?
I'll give it 6 helms out of 10. John?
Yeah, I'll give it 5.5 helms out of 10.
Yeah, I'll give it 8 helms out of 10. Alright guys, make sure to like, subscribe, check out our socials, and we'll catch you on the next one. Ciao.